The phone rang at 2:17 a.m., a shrill intrusion into the quiet of my small apartment. I fumbled for it, my heart already racing from the unnatural hour. The screen displayed Mom. I answered, dread pooling in my stomach. "Ellie, it's your father," she sobbed. "He's in the hospital. It's his heart. You need to come home now." I sat up, the fog of sleep evaporating. "What happened? Is he okay?" "He's stable, but it's bad. They're talking surgery. Please, Ellie, we need you here." Her voice broke, and I could hear the strain, the kind that comes from fear, or so I thought. I booked the first flight from Chicago to Portland, Oregon, where my family lived. My father, Richard, had always been the stoic type, a retired accountant who preferred golf to grand gestures. A heart attack didn't fit his careful lifestyle, but bodies betray even the cautious. I packed a bag, my mind spinning with worst-case scenarios. By 6 a.m., I was airborne, staring out the window at a dawn that felt too bright for the news I'd received. My family wasn't close, not in the warm, fuzzy way people imagine. My parents, Richard and Diane, had always favored my older brother, Nate, the golden child who could do no wrong. I was the afterthought, the daughter who moved away to build a life as a freelance graphic designer, far from their expectations. The distance suited us all. But family is family, and emergencies erase grudges, or so I believed. When I landed, Nate picked me up at the airport. He looked haggard, his usually pristine button-down wrinkled. "He's at St. Vincent's," he said, barely meeting my eyes. "Mom's a mess." We drove in silence, the city blurring past. At the hospital, Mom enveloped me in a hug that felt rehearsed, her perfume cloying. "Oh, Ellie, thank God you're here," she whispered. I followed her to the ICU, where Dad lay connected to monitors, his face pale but composed. He opened his eyes when I approached, managing a weak smile. "Ellie," he rasped. "Didn't expect you so soon." I squeezed his hand, searching for answers in his expression. "Of course I came." "What happened?" "Chest pain, out of nowhere," he said. "They're running tests." The doctor, a woman with kind eyes and a clipboard, confirmed a cardiac event but said he was stable. Surgery might not be necessary, pending further tests. Relief washed over me, but something felt off. Mom and Nate hovered, their concern almost too perfect, like actors hitting their marks. Over the next 2 days, I stayed at the hospital, sleeping in a chair by Dad's bed. Mom and Nate came and went, their visits punctuated by hushed conversations in the hallway. I caught fragments, words like trust and will, but dismissed them as stress. On the 3rd day, Dad was moved to a regular room, his color returning. I began to relax, but then Mom pulled me aside. "Ellie, we need to talk about the future," she said, her eyes glistening. "Your father's health, it's made us think about the estate." I frowned. "He's getting better, Mom." "Let's not, it's important," she interrupted. "You know your grandfather left you a significant inheritance." "We've never touched it, but with medical bills piling up," she trailed off, dabbing her eyes. The inheritance. Grandpa Henry, Dad's father, had been a shrewd investor who left me $2 million in a trust, accessible when I turned 30. I was 29 now, 6 months shy of the milestone. The money was a sore point. Nate had received a smaller share, and my parents had always hinted I should share the wealth. I'd resisted, wanting to use it for my own dreams, a design studio, maybe a house. "We're not asking for much," Mom continued. "Just enough to cover costs. You'd still have plenty." I hesitated. The request felt reasonable, but her urgency didn't match Dad's improving condition. "Let's wait until we know more," I said. Her face tightened, but she nodded. That night, I couldn't sleep. Something gnawed at me, Mom's tears, Nate's avoidance, the way Dad seemed almost too calm. I started digging. First, I checked the hospital's patient portal, using Dad's login from years ago when I'd helped with his insurance. His record showed a cardiac event, but the details were vague, no mention of a heart attack, just chest pain and observation. Odd. I texted a friend, Sarah, a nurse in Chicago, and sent her the medical jargon. Her reply came at midnight, sounds like a mild episode, maybe angina. Not life-threatening. Why the ICU? Good question. I searched online for the doctor's name, Dr. Emily Chen. Her profile checked out, but I noticed she was part of a private practice linked to a local businessman, Victor Langston, a name I recognized. Langston was a family friend, a golf buddy of Dad's with a reputation for shady deals. My suspicions grew. The next morning, I confronted Nate. Is Dad really as sick as you're making out? I asked, cornering him in the hospital cafeteria. He bristled. What are you implying? You saw him. Something's off. The records don't add up. And Mom's already talking about my inheritance. He looked away, his jaw tight. You're paranoid, Ellie. We're just worried about Dad. But I wasn't buying it. That afternoon, I slipped into Dad's room while he napped and checked his chart. The notes were sparse, mentioning stress-induced symptoms rather than a clear diagnosis. I took photos, my hands shaking. Then I overheard Mom on the phone in the hallway. She's asking questions. Victor. We need to move faster. Victor. My blood ran cold. I didn't know what they were planning, but I knew it involved my money. I needed proof, and a plan. I couldn't confront them directly, not yet. If my family was scheming, they'd cover their tracks the moment I tipped my hand. Instead, I played along, acting the dutiful daughter while gathering evidence. Back at my parents' house, I borrowed Mom's laptop under the pretense of checking flights. Her email was open, and I found a thread with Victor Langston. The subject line, Ellie's trust. The emails were careful, but damning. Victor had arranged for a consultant to pose as a hospital administrator, pushing for Dad's ICU stay to sell the urgency. Another email mentioned a lawyer drafting documents to transfer my inheritance to a family trust, controlled by Mom and Nate. The kicker, Dad wasn't sick. They'd staged the episode, using his real chest pain, likely stress from their plotting, to fake a crisis. Victor had connections at St. Vincent's, including Dr. Chen, who'd padded the records just enough to pass scrutiny. I felt sick. My own family was betraying me, using Dad's health as a prop. But why? The emails hinted at Nate's debts, gambling, bad investments, and Mom's desperation to maintain their lifestyle. My inheritance was their lifeline. I copied the emails to a USB drive, my hands trembling with rage. I needed more. I called Sarah again, who connected me with a private investigator, Mike, who worked medical fraud cases. Over a secure call, I explained everything. Can you dig into Dr. Chen and Victor Langston? I asked. Langston's a known operator, Mike said. Give me 48 hours. While I waited, I kept up appearances. I sat with Dad, who seemed genuinely unaware of the plot. You're looking better, I said, probing. He sighed. It was scary, but I'm fine. Your mother's making a bigger deal than it is. His words confirmed my suspicions, she was orchestrating this. I smiled, hiding my anger. At dinner, Mom pressed again about the inheritance. We've been talking to a lawyer, she said. It's simple paperwork. You'd still control most of it. I'll think about it, I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside. Nate avoided my gaze, picking at his food. Mike called the next day. Dr. Chen's been disciplined before for falsifying records, minor stuff, but it fits. Langston's tied to a shell company that's been funneling money to her practice. And your brother? He owes $300,000 to some nasty people. Langston's covering him, but he wants your trust as collateral. I gripped the phone. Can you get proof? Already have. Bank records, emails, even a recorded call where Langston admits the hospital stunt. I'm sending it encrypted. The evidence arrived that night, a digital dossier that laid out the scheme in black and white. They'd planned to guilt me into signing over the trust, claiming medical expenses, then siphon it through Langston's company. If I refused, they'd use forged documents, banking on my trust in them. The audacity floored me. But I wasn't just angry, I was strategic. I called my lawyer, Rachel, who managed Grandpa's trust. "Can we protect the money?" I asked, forwarding Mike's evidence. "Absolutely," she said. "We'll lock the trust tighter than Fort Knox. And we can countersue for fraud if you want to play hardball." I did. But first, I needed to expose them, publicly, painfully, and on my terms. I spent the next day planning, my mind racing with possibilities. I'd let them think they were winning, then pull the rug out. At the hospital, Mom handed me papers to sign, her smile too sweet. "It's for the family, Ellie. You'll still have plenty." I pretended to skim them, my heart pounding. "I'll sign tomorrow," I said. "I need to read it over." Her relief was palpable, but Nate's eyes flickered with doubt. He knew me better than Mom did, I wasn't the pushover they thought. That night, I finalized my plan with Rachel and Mike. We'd stage a confrontation, but it had to be airtight. I couldn't just accuse them, I needed them to admit it, preferably in front of witnesses. The next morning, I suggested a family meeting at the hospital, saying I was ready to sign. Mom, Nate, and Victor were there, along with Dr. Chen, who'd been roped into joining under the guise of updating Dad's condition. I'd also invited Rachel, who posed as my financial advisor, and Mike, disguised as a hospital staffer recording the meeting for insurance purposes. Dad was there, too, still in the dark but looking stronger. We gathered in a conference room. Mom started, her voice syrupy. "Ellie, we're so grateful you're helping. The bills are overwhelming." I nodded, clutching the unsigned papers. "I want to do what's right. But first, can you explain why Dad's records don't show a heart attack?" The room froze. Mom's smile faltered. "What are you talking about?" I pulled out my phone, displaying the photos of Dad's chart. It says stress-induced symptoms. No mention of a cardiac event. "And Dr. Chen, your name's on these, but you've got a history of fudging records, don't you?" Dr. Chen blanched. Victor stepped in, his voice smooth. "Ellie, you're upset. Let's not make accusations." "I'm not accusing," I said, my voice calm but firm. "I have proof." I played Mike's recording of Victor discussing the fake hospital stay. His voice echoed, "She'll sign if we push the medical angle." "Chen's on board." Mom gasped, but it was Nate who cracked. "It wasn't supposed to go this far," he blurted. "Victor said it was just a loan." "Shut up, Nate," Victor snapped, but it was too late. Dad's face darkened. "Diane, what the hell is this?" Mom stammered, but I wasn't done. I slid the emailed evidence across the table. "You faked Dad's emergency to trick me into signing over my inheritance. Nate's debts, your lifestyle, it's all here. And Victor, you're the puppet master." Rachel stepped forward. "The trust is locked. Any attempt to access it will trigger a fraud investigation. And we've already filed a complaint with the medical board about Dr. Chen." Victor tried to bolt, but Mike blocked the door, revealing his PI badge. "You're not going anywhere." Dad turned to Mom, his voice low. "You used me? For money?" She broke down, sobbing, but I felt no pity. Nate just stared at the floor. Dr. Chen muttered about immunity if she cooperated. Victor, cornered, tried to negotiate, but Rachel shut him down. "Save it for the lawyers." The fallout was swift. Dad filed for divorce, his trust in Mom shattered. Nate agreed to testify against Victor to avoid charges, though he'd still face creditors. Dr. Chen lost her license, and Victor was arrested for fraud and conspiracy. My inheritance remained untouched, and I used a portion to start my design studio, far from Portland. I visited Dad before I left. He looked older, but resolute. "I'm sorry, Ellie," he said. "I didn't know." "I know," I said, hugging him. "You're still my dad." As I boarded my flight back to Chicago, I felt lighter. They'd tried to break me, but I'd turned the tables. Family isn't blood, it's trust. And mine, I'd build on my own terms.